Chances are you know this face. I mean, it's one of the most famous images in the world. Queen Nefertiti, the absolute icon of ancient Egyptian beauty. But the real story behind this famous bust? Well, it's a gripping mystery of power, revolution, and a sudden, totally shocking disappearance. Okay, let's dive right in.
So here it is, the central puzzle that has baffled historians for like decades. See, Nefertiti wasn't just a queen, she was an absolute force of nature. And then, at the height of her power, she's gone. Just vanishes. No records, no burial, nothing. It's almost like history itself tried to hit the delete button on her. So what on earth happened?
All right, to even begin to understand how she could just disappear, we have to first get a handle on just how revolutionary she and her husband actually were. I mean, these two didn't just rule Egypt, they turned it completely upside down. So her name literally means the beautiful one has come. She was married to the Pharaoh Akhenaten, and together, wow, this power couple launched one of the most radical, society-shaking transformations in all of ancient history. And you gotta understand, she was far, far more than just the Pharaoh's wife.
And this, right here, is where she just shattered every single convention. You know, a traditional Egyptian queen was basically a symbolic figure, right? They kind of lived in the king's shadow. But Nefertiti? Nope. She was an active co-ruler, shown in art as her husband's absolute equal. She was even shown smiting Egypt's enemies. I mean, that's a power pose that up until her was only for the pharaoh himself. This was completely, totally unheard of.
And their revolution was, well, it was a total societal reset. And they did it in 3 massive steps. First, they took on the incredibly powerful priests of the god Amun. Big move. Then, they basically erased an entire pantheon of old gods and said, nope, from now on we worship just one god, Aten, the sun disk. And finally, they abandoned the capital of Thebes and built a brand new city, from scratch, out in the middle of the desert. I mean, talk about a fresh start.
And this move, wow, it just brilliantly illustrates their absolute control. The crucial thing to get here is that nobody, and I mean nobody, could communicate with their new god except through them. They made themselves the sole, undisputed spiritual and political center of the entire empire. I mean, can you even imagine that level of power? Okay, so now that we understand she was, arguably the most powerful woman on the planet, let's get back to the case file. Her sudden disappearance just becomes even more baffling. How does someone like that just vanish into thin air?
So investigators, Egyptologists, they have 3 leading theories. First up is death. A plague was sweeping through the region at the time, so yeah, it's possible. But here's the problem. There's no body, no tomb, not a single record of her burial. The second theory is disgrace, that maybe she fell out of favor with the king. But honestly, there's very little evidence to support that. And that leaves us with the third, and by far the most compelling theory. She didn't vanish, she ascended.
That's right. The growing consensus among experts now is that she was never erased at all. Instead, she was promoted. She was elevated to an even higher position, a position that actually required her to leave the name Nefertiti behind.
So the leading theory is that she actually became a pharaoh in her own right, taking on a new royal name, like Smenkhkare or Neferneferuetan. It's thought that she probably ruled alongside a fading Akhenaten, or maybe even as the sole ruler for a little while, right before the famous boy king Tutankhamun took the throne. So you see, she didn't disappear. She disguised her identity to step into the ultimate position of power.
I mean, this completely reframes who she was, right? She wasn't just a beautiful face. She was a political revolutionary who very likely became pharaoh herself. And the irony is, the end of her story in ancient Egypt is what made her one of the most famous faces in all of modern history.
Yeah, this is the great irony of her story. See, after her death, the old priests, they came back into power, and they tried to erase her and Akhenaten's entire revolution from history. We're talking chiseling their names from monuments, the whole thing. And they almost succeeded. But then, thousands of years later, a single-chance discovery made her face one of the most famous on Earth.
Back in 1912, this very bust was discovered in the ruins of her abandoned city, sitting in what was left of her royal sculptor's workshop. And just like that, this queen who was nearly lost to time became an overnight global sensation. Her image came to define elegance and timeless beauty for the entire world.
And her influence didn't even stop there. Her legacy is directly tied to perhaps the only pharaoh more famous than she is, the boy king, Tutankhamun. He was her son-in-law. So when he married her daughter, he didn't just join a family, he became part of the massive political and religious dynasty that she had forged.
connecting two of the most legendary names from the entire ancient world.
So, the next time you see this face, what will you think about? Is it just an icon of beauty? Or is it a revolutionary high priestess, a partner in power, and ultimately a female pharaoh so formidable that her successors tried and failed to completely erase her from existence?